Hey, everybody, it is Trags, Mike Petralia back with the latest installment of the Jungle Roar podcast brought to you by our good friends at Prize Picks and, of course, CLNS Media. Well, we are 1 week into free agency. A lot of the names are off the board. And to talk all about it and talk about what the Bengals did and did not do in free agency and how they went about it, my good friend Richard Skinny from Local 12 and local12.com. Skinny, we'll get right to it. Boye Mafe, the Edge, they signed him to a 3-year, $60 million deal. Bryan Cook, the hometown kid from Mount Healthy High School and the University of Cincinnati. The safety agreed to a 3-year, $40.25 million deal with $14 million guaranteed. And Jonathan Allen, Mr. Attitude, brings some fresh and kick-ass attitude, if you will, into the middle of the Bengals defensive line. 2 years, $28 million, again, to bolster the interior of the Bengals line, which certainly has needed it over the last couple of seasons. Of those three players, which player has the potential to make the most impact right away?
I think Mafe does, just because of what the analytics suggest, the pressure rate that he's had. The production doesn't match that. It certainly didn't match it this past year in Seattle when he only had the 2.0 quarterback sacks. But again, the advanced analytics suggest that he's going to win a lot of pass rush situations. That whole defensive line in Seattle kind of feasted together. Some of those were probably pushed into the middle of the pocket where Byron Murphy, defensive tackle, had 8 sacks, I believe. So,
Right.
Sometimes sacks, I don't want to call them misleading because they're not. I mean, you either sack the guy or you don't. But I do think there's a lot of upside there for him to improve on the sack numbers. He has had a season where he had 9 sacks, and when he probably had more snaps as well, he's going to get a chance here in Cincinnati to do that. So he's the one with the biggest upside. The safest one for me was Bryan Cook.
Yes.
It was one of two safeties for me. It was either him or Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant went off the board a little bit earlier on Monday to the Bears, and pretty quickly the Bengals swooped in and got Bryan Cook. He's not a great ball hawk. He doesn't intercept many passes, but he's just solid. And they give me solid right now. I mean, the numbers that jump off the charts, the fact that the guy's had 22 career missed tackles, and Geno Stone had 23 last year alone. Bryan Cook's had 9 missed tackles in the last 2 years combined.
Right.
Let's just go to solid. Would I have liked solid and spectacular? Yeah, sure, but give me solid. So he's the safe one. And then Allen's kind of the real wild card for me, just because of his age. Wasn't overly productive in Minnesota. I mean, they kicked him to the curb after 1 year. He had signed a 2-year contract there, and they kicked him to the curb after 1 year. I will say that, he played in a defensive scheme that really prioritized blitzing a lot. And as a defensive tackle, you're not going to probably feast on that. You're going to probably be asked to hold up blockers, if you will, to open
Right.
blitzing lanes for others. So I'm going to give him a little benefit of the doubt there. He has had past success as an interior rusher. I think interior guys age differently than probably any other position on defense. I think you're seeing a lot more older interior defensive linemen nowadays. The 31 scares me a little bit. The money scares me a little bit. We have not seen the details of his contracts. That money may be very backloaded into next year for all I know. So that's the one for me. But I also think that signing tells me this. All those nice flowery things that Al Golden and Duke Tobin told us up at the Combine about Chris Jenkins were absolute, utter BS.
Well, and what it tells me about Chris Jenkins is he is at best right now a rotational piece.
Correct.
I do believe they think he is athletic. He has shown some of that. He has flashed some of that athleticism in his 3 seasons with the Bengals, but not anywhere nearly consistently enough to be on the field for 3 downs. And one of the things Jonathan Allen pointed to on Friday is he takes a lot of pride on being a 3-down lineman.
But
And I think
he's
that
going to be. I don't think he's going to be, though.
You don't think he's going to be on
Well,
the field?
I shouldn't say that. I think he and B.J. Hill are going to be the rotational piece, and that's where I just don't know where Chris Jenkins fits into the mix. I just don't.
Right, but I think their priority right now is to bring some attitude and some hunger.
Sure.
I mean, he's 31. He's not super young by any stretch. Or is he 29?
No, 31. 31's right.
31 is right. He's 31, and to me, that's, probably on the back end of his prime, but that's okay. It's a 2-year deal. I don't have a big problem with that. what these three deals mean to me is they wanted attitude. Boye Mafe certainly is heading into his upside in terms of the athleticism that you mentioned. So he could absolutely bring a different type of force on the edge. He's not Trey Hendrickson. He doesn't have that kind of production, and I'm not here to suggest that he's Trey Hendrickson's pure replacement. I'm not saying that at all. But he does come from a terrific defense in Seattle, and he knows how to get after the quarterback, and he knows how to win at the point of attack, which precious few guys, Skinny, on this Bengals defensive line were able to do. Let me finish up, and I'll let you expand. Bryan Cook is reliable, and they need reliable as a safety. They thought that they could go with a ball hawk in Geno Stone, but he couldn't tackle. That was the big problem with Geno Stone. And he benefited from playing on one of the best defenses in Baltimore toward the end of his time there, and that's why he got the deal with the Bengals. But Jonathan Allen, to me, was an attitude signing. Everybody has seen the viral clip of him after that game against the New York Giants in 2023. They lost 14-7 to the New York Giants. And he went on F-bomb tirade on his own team after the game. Look, a lot of Bengal fans wanted to hear that after the losses to the Jets and the Bears, and maybe he brings some of that attitude.
Yeah, the other thing Mafe and Bryan Cook bring is Super Bowl champion pedigree. I mean, they both
Yep.
have a Super Bowl ring, and I don't think you can discount that fact either, that they've been there, done that. Now, Bryan Cook was in a reserve role in his rookie year when Kansas City won the Super Bowl, but he evolved into a 34-game starter over the last 2 years for a very good team 2 seasons ago. This past season, obviously, they didn't make the playoffs, but he was a big part of that and evolved into that. And so I think there's something to be said for that as well. They attacked 3 areas of need. Safety was definitively an area of need. Edge rusher was definitively an area of need, and interior pass rush help was an area of need. And so I think they've done a good job with that. But man, oh man, there's a disconnect, Mike, from what we were told in Indianapolis. I mean, Al Golden, I asked him specifically, do you think it would behoove you to add a veteran linebacker? And he said, yes, I need somebody who can both cover and play the run. I need that versatility. And I thought all along they were going to be on a starting level guy. And they've chosen not to go that route. Now you're going to get secondhand guys that, are they going to be any better than what the rookies were? Now listen, part of me understands that you threw those 2 guys in the deep end of the pool last year. They sank at times, did at least swim to the top a few times. And I think they're saying, we threw you in the deep end. Now, second year, you're going to evolve into something more. That's a heck of a gamble to take, in my opinion, without having a vet
too big of
there
a
to help
gamble.
Yeah.
I have no problem with them relying on them developing, but
Correct.
don't have any insurance policy behind them. It makes no sense, Skinny. No team that is serious about winning a Super Bowl would take that approach. Now, maybe they, wind up with Sonny Styles in the draft at number 10. Who knows? And that would
out there.
Well, I mean, Sonny Styles, I don't think is another rookie. I think he's top 10 talent. Maybe
I don't disagree with that. I agree with what you're saying there, but I'm not going to have another kid learning on the fly. No, thank you.
Anthony Jennings, I thought would have been a perfect fit for the Patriots when the Patriots released him last week. He's a great edge setter for the run defense. And I'm thinking to myself that's a guy they could go after. They do have the money. And I do want to move on to the financials now.
Yeah, sure.
And without getting too far deep into the weeds and boring everybody that's listening, the Bengals came into the free agency period with the salary cap set at about $301 million, $301.2 million. After their spending spree, signing those 3 players, it currently sits at about $20.7 million. I'm curious to see what the Bengals will do with that remaining cap space. You have said in the past, and we have reminded people, they have to set aside a decent chunk of that for rookie signings,
other in-season things.
And other in-season
issues. Yeah, if you go to Over the Cap and Spot Rack, they both have the Bengals at 31 mil, and doing the math of that, subtract about, 12 to 15 million dollars. You're probably, to your point, you're right now around the 18 to 20 million dollar range, and that would include having the signing of the rookie of the draft class and keeping the money set aside that they do. But don't forget, out of what's left of the 18 or 20 million dollars of salary cap, Jonathan Allen's contract hasn't gone on the books yet, so I don't know how much that's going to knock into that. Probably won't knock a ton off of that. So you still are probably going to have 12 to 15 million dollars left to spend, and you still do need a linebacker. You still need a backup quarterback better than Josh Johnson, for goodness sakes. You need a corner, at least one. It wouldn't hurt to probably go get another safety on top of all this. So you still got some work to do, and the finances just really there's enough left. There's not enough left to make a splash, if you will, I guess.
Okay, explain to fans why there was so much hubbub on X and other social media platforms about the Bengals guaranteeing $17 million of the Boye Mafe deal in the first year. Why were people losing their minds about that?
Well, it is and it isn't, because I think initially there was a lot of money that Spot Rack showed giving him the roster bonus this year instead of prorating the signing bonus. So I haven't looked at it today, but I do believe that number has changed. It may not have, but I believe that number has changed a little bit, because they did give him a $4 million roster bonus, a $5 million prorated signing bonus. So technically they have given him $17 million of guaranteed money.
Right. Why does that matter? Skinny, why does that matter? Because I think fans want to know, well, what is it? Who cares when he gets his money? Well, it impacts how much flexibility you have to go out and sign and do what you're talking about. Go out, get another linebacker that you desperately need. Go out and get a corner. Go out and perhaps get another edge rusher. That's how it impacts.
Yeah, I'd much rather would have spent the money on the linebacker first and gone and gotten the interior defensive lineman second. I mean, it just feels like there's such a void there when you're just counting on you are literally counting on these two kids to take a giant leap forward. I hope they do. Maybe
hope
they do.
It's not a plan.
But I go back to the whole disconnect of this of we're all in. We're all in just signing 3 free agents and Josh Johnson? And I know there's going to be a couple of more because you're going to have to fill out the roster and whatnot, but it doesn't feel like they were all in. It feels like they were, okay. And then the disconnect of the things that Al Golden and Duke Tobin are telling us about Chris Jenkins, and Al talking about needing a linebacker and wanting a linebacker, rather. And none of that comes to fruition. It feels like the right hand has no clue what the left hand's doing. And unfortunately, it's the king and queen that sit over everybody on top of it. I think they're screwing everything up.
Well, I think part of the problem is that they are trying to tell the fans one thing, but the coaches know a different reality. And I think when you message through the coaching staff that, hey, we like our young players, we believe in our young players, but they know full well that their young players were overwhelmed last year and put in awful positions that they should not have been, and we need to take a different tack this offseason. They have they have done some things differently. Yes. They have added some pieces, and give the devil their due. They have absolutely added to the quality of the roster. I am not here to say they have not done that.
No, and I go back to day one. I'm pretty sure they were in on John Franklin Myers, and it got a little bit too rich because it was very quickly after John Franklin Myers agreed to a contract with Tennessee. Within probably a half hour, Boye, Mafe, Bryan Cook. So it was almost like, okay, we didn't get our main prize. Now let's turn our resources to the other couple of prizes. So I'll give them a lot of credit for they had targets. And I think they did a good job attacking their targets. And I did sports talk with Lance McAllister on Monday night, and I was all excited about what they did because I thought more was to come quickly. And then it just kind of petered out to the point where you go, really, Jonathan Allen? That's it? That's all we're going to do before we just get a bunch of veterans who are has-beens or never wers? That's really where we're at with this? I mean, Leo Chenal was there for the taking at $8 million per year. How hard was that?
I don't understand why they don't think he wouldn't have been a great fit.
Great fit in every way, shape, or form. And then you can you can mix and match the two kids with him. And it just made all the sense in the world to me. I hope we're not at the point of next year where we're looking back going, sure wish they'd have gone and signed that linebacker.
He is Richard Skinner, Skinny as we like to call him. He does a great job covering the Bengals for Local 12 and local12.com. The playoff push is heating up, and tournament hoops are indeed upon us. And there's no better way to cash in if you're right on the high-flying hoops action than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Every bucket, every assist, and every win means more when you're playing on Prize Picks. And with their brand new Team Picks markets, you can now pick game winners, spreads, and totals on top of the player picks you already know. So cash in if you're right during all of the clutch buckets, slam dunks, and Cinderellas this spring with Team Picks on Prize Picks. Pick the winner straight up on Prize Picks. Who is going to win the next big basketball game? Who's going to win the fight? Back your takes with some real money on Prize Picks. I can even pick who is going to cut down the nets in a couple of weeks or who is going to win a ring this summer, whether it's the tournament, the playoffs, or even in the international baseball tournament. I can call my shot and cash in if I make the right picks, all on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and pick your first game winner, spread, or total as the playoff push rolls on, and get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup when you use the code CLNS. That's code CLNS to get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Back with Richard Skinner of Local 12 and local12.com. Let's talk a little bit about Joe Burrow. You see him at the Forum? At the Forum, oh my God. At the home of the Lakers.
Yes.
They used to play at the Forum.
He was there. He was playing cards with Jessica Alba, wasn't he? I mean, he's been all over the place.
It is every offseason. It never fails. Joe Burrow winds up or he shows up in some high glamour spot, loving life. And it's good to see. It actually is.
Yeah, one of our local media outlets in town goes a little over the top with the Joe Burrow was cited at that drives me a little bit crazy. I mean, great, Joe Burrow's here, Joe Burrow's there, Joe Burrow's everywhere.
The age we're in, Skinny.
Oh, I do. I think it's an insane age, but yes, I do.
Speaking of Joe Burrow, let's talk about the Bengals getting a bit of a windfall. They get a $7 million salary cap adjustment from the Joe Burrow insurance payout. Explain to our audience, Skinny, what that's about.
Yeah, so obviously Joe Burrow missed 9 games last year, and the Bengals had insurance on him, and so they cashed in on the insurance, and the insurance ends up netting you another $7 million in salary cap money because insurance paid his time off as opposed to you continuing to pay. So probably really a brilliant move on their part. And I don't, the timing of it was odd because it came after the start of free agency, it seemed like, where maybe they weren't aware they were going to get that. I would hope they would have been aware of that. And that's where I go back to, the money went quickly with Mafe and Cook.
Right.
But there was money left over to do some other things, as we talked about. Well, there was even more money then because you got the Burrow adjustment. I talked about, restructuring his contract potentially and maybe add 12 mil. Well, you added 7 mil to it, so you got a nice chunk because of that insurance. And again, we sit here today and you still have lots of holes. And I know there's going to be a third wave of free agency. You're probably looking at guys that were cut and what do they have left in the tank. But I just can't get over them whiffing on the linebacker position. I just can't get over it.
I cannot either, but I'm going to move on to some better news, and I think they have done a very good job bringing back a couple of players and restructuring one of them. First of all, Orlando Brown Jr. negotiating his own extension.
It's crazy.
It is, and in this day and age, I don't know if I'm a Orlando Brown Jr., if I even take that risk, but he felt comfortable doing it. It's for roughly $16 million a year, which is a good deal, I think, for the Bengals, assuming that Orlando Brown Jr. stays at the level he has played at, either Pro Bowl or close to Pro Bowl level. Joe Burrow loves him. The offensive line trusts Orlando Brown Jr. a lot. But the key to that extension is Orlando Brown Jr. staying at a certain level.
Yeah, I agree with that. He didn't play very well 2 years ago. Really didn't play very well at the start of last year. And I don't know if the injury from the year before was lingering, but he ended up playing all 17 games and certainly seemed to play better as the season evolved. You didn't notice him as much. I mean, you noticed him a lot earlier in the year, and that's never a good thing for an offensive lineman. But I also think
Right.
this gets him obviously some security, but it gives the Bengals a little more time to start to find his replacement. I mean, that process was probably
Right.
going to have to start right now. Maybe even as early as pick number 10 in the draft of get a guy in the pipeline. Now you don't have to do that. Could you still do that? Yeah, if you fill the other spots and it becomes a luxury pick, but I don't think that's in the cards any longer. So it does buy you some more time to find his eventual replacement, and it comes at a reasonable cost. I think he's paid middle of the pack, like 17th is where he's paid among left tackles in football. That seems fair. That seems about right.
It does, and for the peace of mind, look, we've talked about continuity for the whole tenure of Joe Burrow's career here in Cincinnati. They finally have that continuity on the offensive line. They bring back Dalton Reisner, 1 year no brainer deal to me, worth $5 million
Agreed.
bucks. Don't you think?
Yeah, no. In fact, the exercise that the Athletic does, where you can build your Bengals roster, one of the drop down boxes was signing Dalton Reisner, and they assigned a $4 million price tag to it. That's essentially what it is. He's getting 3.125 in salary. He can make another 1.75 in incentives, and that would probably be a good thing if he hits those incentives. So it's $5 million. That feels like it's very, very much right in the ballpark for both parties. So I'm glad that they got that done. To your point, I do think it is important to see what continuity on the offensive line looks like, because it feels like it hasn't. It doesn't feel like it has been since Joe Burrow entered the league. There's at least one new piece every year you're trying to fit into the mix.
Jalen Davis, Tanner Hudson, Isaiah Foskey, and Joe Giles Harris. Those four players were part of the 2025 Bengals. Your thoughts on bringing all four of them back?
Joe Giles Harris is probably your number 4 linebacker right now, with Owen Burks as your number 3. I don't say that with great glee, to be quite honest with you. Jalen Davis coming back makes a lot of sense. I don't think I could pencil him in as a 17-game starter. I just don't think he's good enough to do that. I mean, he did play well. It's hard. Honestly, I think you'd agree, Mike. He did play well when he finally got
No
his chance
question.
to start, and he's never really had a chance to start in this league. He's always kind of been pigeonholed as a 5th or 6th guy, practice squad, bounce back to the regular squad when somebody gets hurt, and so I'm happy for him. But I do think they still have to address the slot corner position in free agency. You could obviously do that in the draft as well, but I'd rather do it with at least somebody who's proven it, maybe on the backside of their career, just to add some competition and depth at that position, because they still need that very, very badly at the corner spot.
Obviously, Max Crosby, that news broke last week, and he has now recommitted himself to the Raiders. You don't think there is any chance that the Bengals would get wild and crazy and offer up a number 10 and
Well,
trade for Max Crosby, do you?
I don't know where you fit the money in, I think is the problem. Where do you fit his contract in?
Well, I mean, you'd have to do some maneuvering. I always think, Skinny, if there's a will, there's a way with
Yeah,
these contracts.
I,
But
I'm even though I don't trust them in the draft, I'm going to keep the draft capital and not overspend, because again, they're more than just that guy away. I'm not. And honestly, I do I think the Ravens play both ends against the middle? I do. Like, they got Crosby, or they announced the trade for Crosby, and then I think at the same time we're negotiating with Trey Hendrickson, and when Hendrickson came in at the price they felt comfortable with, they said, "Oh, we'll take you instead. Hey, Raiders, the medicals don't check out." And they don't, but you could have let that slide to some degree and expect him to improve health-wise. But maybe he doesn't, Mike. Maybe this is a degenerative condition that he doesn't. I'm not going to risk that if I'm the Bengals.
yeah, and again, we said this last week. I have no problem with letting Trey Hendrickson go. I
Yeah,
mean,
me
the
either.
Bengals were never going to pay that for a 31-year-old coming off core muscle injury, surgery. They just weren't going to do that.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the Ravens are taking a huge risk, giving him $60 million of guaranteed money at his age, coming off core muscle surgery. I think it's an extraordinarily big risk for such a well-run organization as Baltimore has been over the years, for many, 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 many years. They've had a wonky ass offseason, man.
Yeah, they have, and I'd be curious to see in what direction they go heading into next year, which kind of leads me into my next topic, and that is the Bengals. I think people have talked about this online and on social media. they may be entering a new window of opportunity, at least in the AFC North. Does that expand to the AFC entirely? Maybe, maybe not. But at least within the division, and they always remind us, the best way to get to the playoffs is win your division. I think it sets up very well for the Bengals for the next 2 to 3 years if they handle the rest of this offseason correctly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I will tell you, there's still a Pat Mahomes in this conference. There's still a Josh Allen in this conference. There's still a Lamar Jackson in your division. And there's the new kids on the block, the New England Patriots, who I don't think are going anywhere either. So that's a lot of teams they have to fight out of the way to get to a Super Bowl. But I do think that they're putting themselves at least back in the conversation to make a run in the conference.
What else do you think needs to be done with the Bengals in the next, as we get closer now, as we move closer to the draft and move away from the big free agency moves?
Yeah, I still think you got to bring in a veteran linebacker. I'll be interested to see who that is because there's a lot of guys with a lot of different tread on the tires. Some with not as much, some who have a lot, but have been there, done that, and done it well. I pretty sure you're done across the defensive line at the moment. Maybe if there's a bargain basement edge out there to add to the rotational mix, maybe that also might come from the draft as well. I think the next one to attack is a veteran corner who's got some life left in him that you probably have to pay a little bit for just to get in that mix with Jalen Davis and or to be a depth piece because I mean, right now your top backup cornerback is Josh Newton, and he's kind of fallen out of favor. So I think you have to attack that. And I think the Josh Johnson signing isn't to signify he's going to be the main backup for Joe Burrow.
Right.
I
would agree.
I think they're waiting on the Joe Flacco decision of is their team going to give him a chance to go start. I think the only one out there, in my opinion, would be the Raiders if they don't want to throw Mendoza into the mix from day one. That's a possibility, but they also may say, nope, you know what, we're rebuilding with everybody. We're throwing the kid in. We're going to let him make all his mistakes while we have a couple of years to retool the roster. So I think that's the one to keep an eye on what the Raiders would do with a Joe Flacco. But barring that decision, I think he does come back here, but we'll see. Obviously, I know people. When the Josh Johnson signing was announced on Saturday, went, no, he can't be the backup. He's not going to be the backup. People, he's just not. There's going to be somebody else. I will say it does signify this, Mike, and you and I our group was told this from numerous people, and it's hard not to see it for ourselves. But the backup quarterback free agency class that's out there is trash.
Oh, it's awful. It's really, really bad. But you know what? The Bengals are going to have to make do with what they have. Look, if that's their biggest problem is finding the backup quarterback,
sure.
I think a lot of Bengal fans can live with that. Let's not make this a bigger story than it needs to be. I don't think it really is.
I would just like them to get all the positions settled in some way, shape, or form that when you go into the draft and you're picking where you pick in each round, especially on days 1 and 2, that you have multiple ways you can go. Whether it be Reuben Bain, Mansour Delane, Caleb Downs, you got your pick of that where you're not going, okay, we got to move this guy up the board a little bit here for need. No, you can just look what your board says, and if those guys are, one's higher than the other one, take that guy, and you're adding more for depth and competition than you are for need. So I'm just hoping they solidify the veteran linebacker, solidify the corner. I'm not opposed to going out and getting another safety. I mean, Mike, right now the backup safeties are two guys that they don't believe in, Dejon Anthony and P.J. Jules.
Right. We've already talked about Trey Hendrickson going to the Ravens for 4 years, $120 million. Other big-time departures, Jake Browning landed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That may have gone under the radar for a lot of people. Everybody knows, I think, Joseph Osai signed a 3-year, $36 million deal with the New York Jets. How about Cordell Volson signing with the Tennessee Titans? What did you make of that, Skinny?
I think Cordell has some life left in him. I honestly think if he'd come back here, he would have competed for a backup spot. I think Cordell has some NFL life in him. I know things kind of petered out here for him in Cincinnati, where he got pulled for being a starter, then had to go back in because of an injury, and ended up finishing the 2024 season, then obviously missed this past season due to injury. I'm happy for him because he was always a solid dude. I'm glad he's getting another chance to and a fresh start somewhere else.
Indeed. I always thought that Cordell was one of the best people in the locker room just to shoot the bull.
One of the other ones, obviously, Noah Fant went to New Orleans, and I think the Noah
Yes.
Fant fumbling issues became a real thing for them. I don't think he was ever going to come back. I've had a couple of people ask me this, and I've seen this on social media too, the concept of, would you take a flyer on David Njoku? And I thought, I don't know, man, your tight end room's pretty damn crowded already, right?
Yeah, it is. And, the thumbs up from Eric All on
yes.
Monday
That he's
morning.
healthy.
How about
That
that?
he's healthy.
That he's
Yeah.
healthy. That is actually major news that we should spend at least a couple of minutes on. The significance of him coming back, if he is full strength, what that means to that tight end room and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, it allows you, I think, to use more two tight end personnel, which they started to go to some, more of last year with Fant as kind of the three down guy. Eric All is clearly a three down tight end. He's a terrific run blocker. In fact, his rookie year when he was healthy, he was such a good run blocker, man. He really is physical. He showed me more as a receiver than I thought he had in him. I knew he could block a little bit, but he even showed me more as a blocker, and then showed me a ton as a receiver. And then you can mix and match with when you want to put Gesicki on the field with him, when you want to put Drew Sample on the field with him, when you want to put Tanner Hudson, when you want to go maybe three tight ends at some point. So I do think that's an important piece because, Drew Sample has really only one skill set. He's a blocker. Mike Gesicki really only has the skill set of a receiver. Tanner Hudson really only has the skill set of a receiver. So you need a guy with three down versatility. That way people can't say, oh, Gesicki and Hudson are on the field. It must be a passing situation. So I think Garrett Gall gives you some of that versatility, and I'm happy for him too. I mean, went through the knee stuff in college. He's gone through the knee stuff now in the NFL. You just wonder. I'm glad he gave the thumbs up, and I was happy to see that. I need to see what he looks like, and I'm sure they do too, to see how healthy is this guy because he's gone through it back-to-back years.
What are you working on local12.com?
Yeah, just getting everybody caught up on free agency, doing kind of a free agency catch-up for Tuesday, and we'll keep our ear to the ground and see what else shakes out from this free agency period for the Bengals.
How's the mock looking? Are you rolling out mocks?
I haven't done a mock in a while. I may do one in a week or so. Yeah,
I've inspired you.
Yeah, you have.
All right, well, and before I let you go, I didn't think there were any big snubs in March Madness. I really didn't.
No, because everybody played their way off the bubble. I'm glad Miami got in. I know some people are mad that they got sent to Dayton. I honestly think that's probably the fairest place to put them.
Xavier went there last year.
Listen, if you did the blind resume test, Miami probably would make the field, as long as you didn't show records, because if you saw 31-1, you know who it was. But going 31-0 in the regular season, in my opinion, there ought to be a caveat in there that if you go undefeated in a regular season, you're automatically in the NCAA tournament, no matter what league you play in. So I think Miami did deserve a spot, but I also think Vegas isn't stupid, right? I mean, SMU is they're a 13-loss team, and they're a 7.5-point favorite over Miami. So I think Miami's lucky to get in. I'm glad they got in. 31-0 earned them the way in. I hope that they don't lay an egg in Dayton.
Right.
I really don't, because of what's going to come out of that. Somebody else. No, listen, man. Everybody else on the bubble played their way out. Texas played their way out. Well, they got in. Oklahoma played their way out at Texas's expense. Auburn definitively played. I mean, you're not going to lose 16 games and get in an NCAA tournament. Give me a break, Bruce Pearl.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. March Madness is here, and we've been through our March Madness in the NFL from the last week, and appreciate you, Skinny, recapping what the Bengals were able to do and not able to totally pull off, but we'll have Bengals news, I'm sure, throughout the last week. And one more thing. Anything stick out to you of the three news conferences last week that we had at Paycor?
I didn't go to the Friday one because that was about the time Wes Miller was getting fired from UC, so I was doing the Wes Miller stuff that day. I thought the Orlando Brown one was fascinating to me when he talked about representing himself. That just was that. I think everybody's jaw hit the ground when that took place. So that was the most fascinating one to me.
All right, he is Richard Skinner, does a great job covering all things Cincinnati Bengals and other Cincinnati sports, as he just delineated here on the Jungle Roar podcast. Be sure to catch all of his great content at local12.com. My name is Mike Petralia Trags. Follow me on the X at Trags, Trags. Want to thank our great sponsor, as always, Prize Picks, and the great people at CLNS Media. Until next time, keep that jungle roaring.